Welcome to Detroit. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass. You can drown them. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because that's our domain. That is our domain. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to fucking bury you.
Takes the snap, turns, gives to Montgomery, right side, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Yes.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So folks, I'm going to tell you something right now. For today's episode, I've kind of gotten to a point where I simply just do not give a damn. I don't give a turkey. I don't give any sort of, expression of care when it comes to this conversation. As, another saying will go, I don't give a rat's ass anymore. And the reason why is because you guys all know me. I'm all about logic. I'm all about reason. I'm all about stuff that is provable. I'm all about, hey, can you prove more so than just giving your opinion about a certain topic? Because if you can't actually do that, or if what you try to do is provable and you try to prove it and yet it's so easily disprovable or so easy to say, hey, you didn't think about this, which is actually also something that's very important when you're having this conversation, it bothers me. And for me, it bothers me when people want to have conversations about, players as far as, okay, well, what kind of player are they? How good of a player are they? And right now, I know everybody here can agree with me when you all have said, when I say this. There are so many people out there right now that are trying to push out these top 10 lists as if, somehow they're the God's honest truth to be able to say, oh, well, this is what I believe is the most accurate version of what a top 10 list is for a specific player or a coach or whatever the case might be in the NFL or even for a team. And when we're having this conversation, I'm going to say this right now. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone is entitled to that. Now, I will also say this. Opinions are like armpits, and the reason why I say that is because everyone has one. They all stink, and usually most people do not do the actual ability or time to figure out how to make their opinion not stink. And again, I've used this analogy before. The reason I use it is because it's like, listen, in order to make an opinion not stink, you have to be able to provide facts. You have to be able to provide data. You have to be able to provide something more than just your opinion. And my facts, my stats, my reasoning, my logic, that is the deodorant that I use to where it's not just my, opinion that is coming through. Because if that's the case, then yeah, it's going to stink. It actually has to have something more to it. Now, why I bring this up is because there's been a whole bunch of top 10 lists that have been coming out for, a number of different things, whether it's quarterbacks, running backs, other types of players, teams in general, coaches, whatever have you. Most recently, a list was released where I believe Dan Campbell was listed as a top 5 coach in the NFL. He was ranked number 5. Which is like, okay, I'm glad to see that, Dan Campbell is getting some respect as regards to being a top coach. But what bothers me the most is that no matter what other player you want to talk about, doesn't matter if it's Jahmyr Gibbs, doesn't matter if it's Sam Laporta, doesn't matter if it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, doesn't matter if it's Kirby Joseph, these players are consistently getting the respect from their peers, from other fans, from other analysts of, okay, these guys are top 10, top 5 players. But the one guy that no matter what he has done cannot seem to get consistent respect or the respect that he should get as a top 10, top 5 player is quarterback Jared Goff. I've literally seen virtually every damn, ranking list that has come out, and it's like virtually nobody has Jared Goff as a top 6, top 5 quarterback. Barely a few have him as a top 10 quarterback. But there is a hell of a lot of them that don't even have him in the top 10. And I just sit back, and every time I see one of these lists, I laugh my butt off. And I'm not laughing because it's hilarious. I'm laughing because it's like, dude, what a moronic, what an absolutely asinine take that somebody could have to not include Jared Goff in any top 10 list as a quarterback in the NFL right now. And anytime I see a list like that, I instantly say the exact same thing. Tell me you don't know ball by putting out a list of absolute excrement like this. Something along those lines, because that is exactly what it is. If you put out a list right now that does not have Jared Goff in the top 10, you're an idiot. And I am not ashamed to say that. You are an idiot. You are an absolute moron if you think Jared Goff is not a top 10 quarterback. And I've tried to address this problem in a number of ways. Because to me, I cannot understand how Jared Goff is not a top 10 quarterback almost universally across the board after everything that he's done here in Detroit. But yet, every single time, I keep coming back to the same idiotic, ridiculous conclusions that people keep having, which is, oh, well, because of the fact that he did poorly in the postseason this year, or because of the fact that he did poorly in his Super Bowl, or because of the fact that he has such a great supporting cast and still didn't do well, that somehow that negates him from being a top 10 quarterback. And every time I hear that, I'm just like, dude, these are people that seriously have a laughable, childlike knowledge when it comes to football. But then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? Instead of arguing the point by saying, oh, well, this, that, or the other thing, I'm going to actually address the points for what they are. So everybody wants to say that Jared Goff is not a top 10 quarterback due to how he performed in the postseason. Okay, that's fine. Let's take a look at how he did in that game, the division round game, as a passer. When you take a look at Goff's stats from that division round game against the Commanders, Jared Goff was 23 of 40 for 57.5% completion rate, 313 yards, 7.8 average to throw, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions with a 59.7 pass rate. Not gonna lie, not good at all. Very bad, not good of a quarterback of his stature. That's just the facts. Doesn't matter how I like it, doesn't matter how I feel about it. The facts speak what they are. Jared Goff did not have a good game in that game. But I started thinking to myself, like, I've said this before. Great quarterbacks have bad games. It happens all the damn time. But yet, here's the funny part is that, again, I've said this too. Recency bias is one of those things that it does not matter how hard you try to get rid of. People are going to continue to look at the recency effect of what has happened for a player, regardless of stature, and they're going to say, oh, well, this is why this guy is considered good, or this is why this guy is considered not good. And I was like, wait a minute here. When it comes to the whole quarterback debate, the recency bias argument is one of the most laughable, lame-brained ideas I have ever heard of in my life. And the reason why I can say that is because if you actually do some simple research, you will find out that Jared Goff's performance in the postseason against the Commanders in the division round, it's actually better than a lot of some of the greatest quarterbacks over the last 20 years have performed in the postseason for individual games, or for how they've performed in one singular game for the entirety of a postseason. You don't believe me? Well, as my title says, it's time for the NFL to get a really brutal wake-up call and education when it comes to this from the Detroit Lions. Because as I just stated, those were Jared Goff stats in the division round, right? Let's take a look at some games here that have been done by some of the best quarterbacks that have ever played, but here's the parameters that I set up. Every single quarterback has to have won a Super Bowl within the last 20 years. Every single quarterback has to be considered a great quarterback or a likely quarterback that's going to go into the Hall of Fame one day. And on top of that, they have to have something that is a lower passer rating than what Jared Goff had in the postseason as far as a division round, championship round, wild card game, whatever. Or, when we're talking about Jared Goff's Super Bowl performance, have to have a lower one than that. Intrigued, my friends? Well, let's take a look at this. There are currently, what I was able to find, there are 7 quarterbacks that I was able to take a look at their entire postseason careers and say, okay, where are their games where they performed worse as a passer rating than Jared Goff did in that division round? You want to know what the 7 quarterbacks are? Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Eli Manning. Then you also have to include, I have it written down here. I got 5 out of the 7 off the top of my head. Who are the other ones? Oh yeah, Drew Brees, Big Ben, and I believe that's it. So you have Peyton, you have Brady, you have Brees, you have Rodgers, you have Eli Manning, you have Russell Wilson, and you have Big Ben. When you take a look at those 7 names, here's how those names break down as far as the number of games for each one of them. Tom Brady has 4. Peyton Manning, I believe, has 2. And then on top of that, when you take a look at everybody else, it's pretty much 1, and that's it. Now, I will say this. The reason why I say Peyton Manning has 2 is because I took a look at some of his Super Bowl performances. And there's one name I didn't mention. That's Patrick Mahomes. Yes, even Patrick Mahomes, the mighty Patrick Mahomes, has a postseason game that is worse than what Jared Goff did against the freaking Commanders in the division round last year. So, hang on tight, folks, and make sure you're paying attention and make sure you're taking notes because this is going to be interesting. So like I said, Jared Goff's performance against the Commanders, a 59.7 pass rating, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, 313 yards, 57.5 completion percentage rate. Let's take a look at the games by other quarterbacks. First off, you have Tom Brady's wild card performance in the 2009 postseason, where he posted these numbers: 23 of 42 for 54.8 completion percentage rate, 154 yards passing, 3.7 an average a throw, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for a 49.1 passer rating. That's the first one by Tom Brady. The next one by Tom Brady, we have to then go back to the wild card performance in 2019. In that game, he was 20 of 37 for 54.1%, 209 yards, 5.6 an average a throw, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception for a 59.4 passer rating. Pretty much on par with Goff, but still less. The next one by Tom Brady, we then have to go to the 2006 divisional round game. In that game, Tom Brady was 27 of 51 for 52.9 completion percentage rate, 280 yards, 5.5 an average a throw, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions with a 57.6 passer rating. So those right there are the first 3 games by Tom Brady. Again, Tom Brady, the GOAT, the best quarterback that has ever played the sport. Jared Goff has already got, 3 games in the postseason career where he has performed better than Tom Brady. Then you have the last one by Tom Brady, which was the 2015 championship game. In 2015, at the championship game, Tom Brady was 27 of 56 for 48.2 completion percentage rate, 310 yards, 5.5 an average a throw, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 56.4 passer rating. So that right there, those are 4 games that Tom Brady had in the postseason, all of which he had after he had won his first Super Bowl. In fact, most of them he got after he'd won already at least 2 or 3 Super Bowls. And yet, again, I don't recall anybody ever saying anything about how Tom Brady was, oh, you know what, this is a true indicator of what his talent is. He's always been buoyed by his freaking supporting cast. He's not that great of a quarterback. Don't ever recall that conversation ever being said about Tom Brady. But that's only part of my argument. Now let's move into Peyton Manning and his postseason performance, not Super Bowl, I'll get to that later, but postseason performance. In the one game for Peyton Manning, you have to go back to his actual Super Bowl season in the games before he got to the Super Bowl. In the division round game in 2006, Peyton Manning was 15 of 30 for 50% completion rate, 170 passing yards for 5.7 a throw, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for a 39.6 passer rating. Good Lord. For one of the best that's ever played, that is downright horrible. And again, like I said, that was Peyton Manning's Super Bowl season with the Colts. So despite the fact that he had such an absolutely atrocious game, team still won, and they went to the conference championship game where obviously they would beat the Patriots and then move on to the Super Bowl to beat the Bears. But yet again, I don't recall anybody ever saying anything about how Peyton Manning was anything less than one of the best to ever put on a chin strap and a helmet for the freaking game. Oh, sure, they might have said that long before then, but I don't recall anybody ever going to say that now. Hence why I say recency bias. But again, let's keep going down this gravy train. Next quarterback, Drew Brees. For Drew Brees' game, you have to go to the division round in 2020, which Drew Brees was 19 of 34, 55.9 completion percentage rate, 134 passing yards, 3.9 in average to throw, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions for an even worse 38.1 passer rating than what, Peyton Manning had in 06. Then, after we go from Drew Brees, you go to Big Ben. His was actually in the 2010 championship game, in which he was 10 of 19 for 52.6 completion percentage rate, 133 yards, 7-point average a throw, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for, again, an even worse 35.5 passer rating. I mean, dude, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Big Ben. I mean, we're talking about some of the best quarterbacks that have played over the last 20-something years. And these guys were just absolutely booty cheeks when it was in the postseason. At least in these specific games. Then, let's move to probably the one quarterback that Lions fans hate more than anybody, which is Aaron Rodgers. Yes, even the immortal Aaron Rodgers, as far as all of his great postseason performances, as far as individual performances, he has one that was worse than what Jared Goff did last year against the Commanders. It was in the championship game in 2011, which was, coincidentally, the year after they I believe it was the year after they had won the Super Bowl, if I recall correctly. In that game, Aaron Rodgers was 19 of 34 for 55.9 completion percentage rate, 178 yards, 5.2 in average to throw, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions for a 55.8 passer rating. Next quarterback, Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson's career arc has definitely had a massive downturn ever since he went from the Seattle Seahawks and went through the Broncos and, the Steelers, and now he's with the Giants. But still, chances are, because of what he did with the Seahawks, he's going to be highly considered for the Hall of Fame. But again, this is still a guy that went to 2 Super Bowls, won one of them. And this, again, in 2014, championship game. So the year after they had gone to the Super Bowl and beaten the Broncos, Russell Wilson was 14 of 29, 48.3 completion percentage rate, 209 yards, 7.2 in average to throw, 1 touchdown to 4 interceptions with a 44.3 passer rating. And then the final quarterback we're going to talk about here is Peyton Manning's younger brother, Eli Manning, or as I like to affectionately call him, the Tom Brady killer, at least when it comes to the Super Bowl. In 2008, we have to go to the division round for Eli Manning, but in that game, he was 15 of 29, 51.7 completion percentage rate, 169 yards, 5.8 in average to throw, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions with a 40.7 passer rating. So, that right there shows all of the postseason games that are not Super Bowls for those quarterbacks, of which, like I said, there are 7, which is a total of 10 games, 2 of which are in the wild card, 4 of which were in the division, and 4 of which were championship games. And again, of those 10 games, 4 of them specifically belong to Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, not only probably in my opinion, but also largely in public opinion and largely in professional opinion when it comes to analysts. So wait a minute here. I just gave you 10 games where Jared Goff outperformed some of the best quarterbacks that has ever played the sport over the last, 20 years and outperformed the greatest quarterback that's ever played, bar none. But yet somehow, again, Jared Goff doesn't get respect when it comes to most top 10, top 5 lists. And again, people want to say that he's not a great quarterback because he has all this great supporting talent. But yet, dude, you take a look at some of those guys that I just talked about. They had great supporting talent. They had great supporting casts. And again, these are guys that had already been to and won Super Bowls. So it's like they should have had no excuse as to why they would have performed poorly in the postseason. It's like, listen, you already climbed the mountaintop. You already got to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. You already claimed the Super Bowl prize. You should have no excuse for why you performed poorly in the postseason. But yet it's happened. But yet, that's what I'm talking about with that whole recency bias with Goff. Because again, that's the most recent playoff game. Whereas if we know about Jared Goff, as I've said before, in 2003 in the postseason, Goff was immaculate. There was nothing that could be said about Goff not playing well above his standards or well above most quarterback standards in the 2023 postseason. Because that year, for the entire postseason, 3 games, Jared Goff was 77 of 111 with 69.4 completion percentage rate, 837 yards, 7.5 an average a throw, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions for 103.3 passer rating. So again, everybody wants to focus on that one really bad performance by Jared Goff in the most recent, era. But I just gave you a showing of 10 games, some of them by the best quarterbacks that have ever played, and yet nobody remembers those games. Why? Because all anybody wants to think about when you instantly talk about Big Ben, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, all they think about is the Super Bowls. But it's like, listen, there were a lot of really bad games between those Super Bowls. But nobody thinks about that. All they think about is, oh, well, they've got a ring. So you know what? That washes everything. Okay, that might wash everything in the grand, kind of whitewashing of history. But if you actually take a look at the grit and the grain of history, there's a lot of really bad things in there that people want to overlook. So the reason I bring that up is it's like, if you're going to call a spade and you're going to be fair as fair here, you need to take a look at everything. Just because Goff had a bad game in the division round, that does not mean he can't be a Super Bowl winner. It does not mean he can't go to another Super Bowl and win it. It does not mean he's not a top 10 quarterback or a top 5 quarterback. Because let me put something out there for you. He definitely is. If you go back to last year, he proved that unequivocally. You cannot have the type of regular season performance he had over 17 games. Even though one of them was a really bad one against the Houston Texans, you cannot say that he's not a top 5, top 10 quarterback when the guy posts numbers like this. Ranked second in completion percentage rate with over 72 completion percentage rate. 4,629 yards, ranked second. 8.6 an average a throw, ranked second. 37 touchdowns, ranked fourth. 6.9 touchdown percentage per throw, ranked third, second in the NFL in pass rating with 111.8, and sixth best in the NFL with QBR of 68.4. I'm sorry, any argument you want to try and make that says he is not a top 5 quarterback, at that point, you instantly lose. You lose. When 5 out of 7 categories, he is ranked top 3 or higher, and 6 out of 7, he's ranked top 5 or higher, I'm sorry, he is a top 5 quarterback. I don't care if you don't like it or not. Suck it up and get over yourselves. Because it's like, listen, every quarterback that is in the NFL has a supporting cast. They have to. And the ones that are really great are the ones that have the better ones. Yes, some have less than others, but the point of the matter is not a single damn quarterback that you can consider great in the NFL right now does not have a good supporting cast. They don't have great wide receivers. They don't have the ability to make great plays. They don't have great coaches. They've got something like that. They have to. Because no quarterback that can say, oh, well, I had, a crappy offensive line, crap wide receivers, crap running game, and crap everything else can say that I'm the greatest that's playing right now, because it doesn't happen. If you've got no supporting cast, chances are you ain't going to play very well. That's just the way it works. But here's the worst part about this is that, again, everybody wants to talk about Jared Goff being not a top 10 quarterback because of, it's not just the fact that he had such a poor divisional round game. It's also because he had a poor Super Bowl performance. And that Super Bowl performance is also why people look down on Goff. But yeah, here's the funny thing. What everybody forgets about that Super Bowl is that had Brandon Cooks not had a case of Butterfingers and actually caught the 2 touchdown passes that Goff had thrown to him, not only would have Goff won that Super Bowl, but how easily history would have rewritten itself. But obviously, that's not what happened. But yet, In Jared Goff's Super Bowl performance in 2018, Goff was 19 of 38 for 50 completion percentage rate, 229 yards for 6 and average a throw, no touchdowns, 1 interception for a 57.9 passer rating. Let's think about this, folks. The two guys that I can instantaneously already tell you that Goff has better performances in the Super Bowl against are Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes. Yes, I told you Patrick Mahomes was in here somewhere. Let's take a look at Peyton Manning's Super Bowl that he's better than him at, which is actually the last Super Bowl that Peyton Manning played in, which is also, coincidentally, the last game that Peyton Manning played in as well. So I know some people are going to be like, well, David, that's not a fair comparison. Bull crap. Fair is fair. Did you play the game? Were you able to perform? Did you go to a Super Bowl? How did you do? Those are the same parameters. Oh, and you want to talk about how, well, Peyton Manning wasn't fully healthy, he had all this stuff. I'm sorry, was Jared Goff fully healthy in his postseason performance against the Commanders? No, but nobody wants to hold that as part of the equation, so you know what? I'm not going to hold it as part of the equation. Either call everything fair, or you know what? I'm going to come across your ass like 10. Literally, because it's like, I'm done. I've literally had enough when it comes to this. It's either you call Jared Goff what he is, which is a top 10, top 5 quarterback, or I will embarrass the ever-living crap out of you. 6 ways to Sunday. Because Peyton Manning in 2015 Super Bowl, even though he won that Super Bowl, he was 13 of 23 for 56.5 completion percentage rate, 141 passing yards, 6.1 on average to throw, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, with a 56.6 passer rating. Oh, and then here comes my personal favorite, which is Patrick Mahomes. Yes, the immortal Patrick Mahomes, the one that everybody can't seem to get enough of and can't seem to get up off his lap. In 2020, the Super Bowl when he played against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. In that Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was 26 of 49 for 53.1 completion percentage rate, 270 yards, 5.6 an average to throw, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, with a 52.3 passer rating. So wait a minute here. I just painstakingly proved, that over some of the greatest quarterbacks' careers, when they went to the postseason, some of which in the Super Bowl, they absolutely stunk the joint up. And they stunk the joint up worse than Jared Goff in his postseason performances that everybody wants to make a big deal about, of which there were 2 games primarily that everybody wants to focus on, which is the division round game that happened last year and the Super Bowl in 2018. But yet, he has 4, when you talk about the comparison, Tom Brady has 4 of those games to Jared Goff's 2 if you want to include the Super Bowl. But if we're not including Super Bowl, it's just 1. If you want to talk about Peyton Manning, it's a 1-to-1. You want to talk about Drew Brees, it's a 1-to-1. Aaron Rodgers, 1-to-1. Big Ben, 1-to-1. It doesn't matter. The point of the matter is that every single quarterback that I've brought up, they had worse games in the postseason than Goff did. But yet nobody wants to acknowledge the fact that I'm making here is that great quarterbacks have bad performances in the postseason, but it doesn't define them. They can go on and win Super Bowls either the same year that they had a bad performance in the postseason or years later. And here's the funny part. Everybody wants to say that Jared Goff is not a great quarterback. Well, let me put this one out there for you. You want to know the list of starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now who have actually been to a Super Bowl? Starting level quarterbacks. Currently, there are 8. One of them it should actually really be 7, but there is one that's probably going to start who shouldn't start, but that's irrelevant. You have Patrick Mahomes, you have Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. The one that's on really shaky ground is Russell Wilson, but again, I digress. That's 8 starting level quarterbacks in the NFL right now. If you include the other 2 quarterbacks that are not starting level quarterbacks but are still in the league, that's Jimmy G and Joe Flacco. I'm going to tell you this right now. Most of those guys on that list, people would take Goff over. People would take Goff over Rodgers. People would take Goff over Wilson. People would take Goff over Hurts in most cases. Yeah, I'm sorry, you Eagles fans, but it's like, listen, if we're talking about just a quarterback straight up and down, as far as being the ability to read a field, make passes, everything else, it's Goff over Hurts. The only thing that makes Hurts better than Goff is the fact that he is an absolute athlete. And then again, you'd also have to put in the argument for Goff over Purdy. At least I would. But the point of the matter is that there are only 10 total quarterbacks in the NFL that have actually started a Super Bowl that are still in the NFL. And of those 10, only 7 of them are really starting level right now. So you really want to tell me Goff's not a starting level quarterback that, is a top 10, top 5 talent that can win a Super Bowl And all because of two games you want to severely highlight, which is the division round game last year and the Super Bowl. Come on now. Grow up, get mature, get a damn education, and shut the hell up if you want to continue on this argument, because I will embarrass you until the cows come home. Just saying. But anyway, folks, I'm going to end this argument, so having said that, I'm going to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I hope you all enjoyed the content. I also hope that I'm able to get your guys a subscription, and I'm also hoping that I can also get you guys to hit that bell notification icon so you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to say thank you all for tuning in. I just want to say, hope this was able to give you guys a absolute worthwhile education. Hope everything in your life is absolutely worthwhile, and you guys have something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.